All right, today we are diving into the incredibly powerful memoir of Jean Starling. It's a raw and honest story about escaping one kind of hell only to walk straight into another, and the amazing, difficult fight to finally become whole again.
Jean opens her story with these exact words, and wow, they really set the stage. You see, this wasn't just about writing a book for her, it was something she had to do. She felt like this story was trapped inside of her, and to truly be free, to really heal, she had to get it out. So let's start where her journey began.
The first part of her life is all about a desperate need to escape. A story we've heard before, a tough childhood you just want to run from. But as we're about to see, the escape she found wasn't salvation at all. I want you to just try and imagine this for a second. Long, back-breaking days in the sticky, hot tobacco fields. Your feet aching so bad you literally cry at night. That was Jean's reality. She said she and her sisters felt completely invisible, like they were nothing more than hands in the field. That feeling, it lit this fire in her to be someone, anyone else. So, at just 14 years old, 14, after some really traumatic experiences with boys, she made a choice that would shape the next 2 decades of her life. She said yes to a marriage proposal. For her, this wasn't about love, not really. It was a strategy. It was a calculated move to survive, an escape hatch from a world she felt was just spinning out of her control. But that escape she was banking on, it never came. She realized almost immediately that she hadn't escaped anything. She had just traded the hell of her childhood for a brand new one, life with an alcoholic. And this new hell wasn't just a single event, oh no. It was a long, grinding, predictable cycle of abuse that would go on to define the entire next chapter of her life. For 18 years. Just let that number sink in. For 18 years, her entire life was caught in this destructive loop. The drunk Mike was cruel, abusive, and the sober Mike, he was always so sorry, so full of promises he'd never keep. And this was the trap. This was the cycle she couldn't break out of. It would start with the drinking. Then came the vicious verbal attacks, calling her horrible names, smashing furniture. And then, like clockwork, would come the apologies, the promises that it would never, ever happen again. And that little flicker of hope would come back, only to be crushed when the cycle started all over again. Now, the real core of the abuse, the thing that kept her stuck, was the psychological manipulation. He twisted everything until she believed his drinking, his rage, all of his problems were somehow her fault. She completely internalized this blame, thinking if I could just be a better wife, if I could just love him enough, he would change. And you know what's crazy? This self-blame was reinforced by almost everyone she turned to. Her own mother-in-law, ministers at her church, even marriage counselors. They all told her it was her duty to just endure it, to love more, to be more respectful. It was like the entire world was conspiring to lock the door to her cage. After 18 long years, something finally had to give. The end of the marriage wasn't some quiet, mutual decision. It was a violent explosion that finally shattered the cycle. But it didn't lead to relief, not at first. It led to pure terror. In their last terrifying fight, he ripped the phone right out of the wall, he threatened her with a shotgun, and then he ran. After a super short stay in a treatment center where nothing really changed, he just left her, took the money, sold their things, and disappeared.
But her first feeling, it wasn't freedom. It was this profound, hollowing emptiness. I mean, she had spent her entire adult life defined by this man, by this relationship. So when he left, it felt like a part of her had been physically torn away.
So she was just caught in this storm of emotions. There was this intense shame that he had been the one to leave her, there was the pain, and then a white-hot anger. But underneath all of that was that old familiar terror. The fear of being poor and invisible all over again. Only now, she had 4 daughters to raise, completely on her own. But that terror, that was not the end of the story. Not even close. From the ashes of that old life, a whole new journey began. A journey of recovery, reinvention, and this exhilarating, kind of scary, taste of what it means to be free. After that initial shock wore off, this incredible sense of liberation just took over. For the first time, there was no one telling her what to do, no one holding her back. As she wrote in a poem, the smothering was gone. She was alive. And she took all of this newfound energy and channeled it into action. She was determined to never have to depend on anyone ever again. So she went on this academic blitz. While working a full-time job and raising 4 girls, she earned both her bachelor's and her master's degrees in just 4 years. She was literally forging armor for her new life.
And this brings us to the final, beautiful stage of her transformation, learning not just how to be independent, but how to love and be loved in a healthy, supportive way.
The difference between her first husband, Mike, and her second husband, Cliff, was like night and day. It couldn't be more stark. Mike was basically another child she had to manage, a source of constant chaos who was threatened by her success. Cliff was a partner, a friend, someone who celebrated her growth and offered gentle, steady care. And for her, it all clicked in this one simple moment at the beach. She was struggling to get the sand off her feet, and Cliff just knelt down and gently brushed it off for her. For Jean, after years of cruelty, this small, tender act, given freely, with no strings attached, was the single most loving thing anyone had ever done for her. That was what real love looked like. And through this experience, she uncovered this deep, fundamental truth. A healthy relationship isn't about 2 broken people trying to complete each other. No, it's about 2 whole, complete individuals coming together to build something even more beautiful, supporting each other's journey along the way. Jean's story is just an incredible testament to resilience. It starts with survival, of course, but it ends with a much deeper question, a question she had to answer for herself, and one we can all think about in our own lives. After you've survived the worst, what does it truly mean to become whole?